a very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. Tonight, our top story is about an attack by the Houthis targeting the heart of Israel. It is an attack that comes with far-reaching implications. We tell you all about the significance of this move. This is coming up in just a bit. And here's a look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. We explain what's happening in Dhaka with the unrest that we told you all about yesterday, now becoming a greater cause of concern. Will Joe Biden drop out of the presidential race? Is it now a question of when and not if? We get you the bigger picture. We also get you the latest from Leeds, with the riots there dominating global headlines. Have scientists cracked the code to extend life? Is it now possible to live longer? We tell you what we are talking about. All this and more coming up for you tonight. Houthi forces have targeted the heart of Israel, specifically Tel Aviv, killing one person and injuring dozens. Now, this is big. That's because this is the first time the Yemen-based group has directly attacked a major Israeli city. You see, previously, the Houthis have launched missiles and drones towards southern Israel following the start of the Gaza war in October last year. But this escalation to a major city was unprecedented. And this attack, by the way, coming at a time when Israel is already dealing with the threat of Hezbollah at its northern border and with other Iranian proxies supporting Hamas intensifying their attacks. The question now is, how did Israel fail to respond to this attack? The Houthi strike hit a building near the beachfront very close to the U.S. Embassy premises. The footage that circulated on social media suggested that the attack came from the sea. It did not trigger air raid alarms. But how could that be? Did the feared Iron Dome fail Israel again? The question has Israeli officials perplexed as well. The Israeli military said it was still investigating why the drone did not trigger alarm. Initial reports suggested the aircraft was identified, but sirens were not sounded due to human error. The aerial strike blew out windows of a number of buildings. It damaged cars in the neighborhood near the coastline. People thronged to the area as police helicopters hovered overhead. The strike rumbled through the streets. Shards of the shrapnel rained down, spreading glass shards over a large area.
Sleep in the hotel there. I'm listen the boom, very boom, and finish.
I live just down the street from where the drone hit, and I was woken up in the middle of the night by just the sound of the boom. I was so confused what was happening, and I went out onto the balcony. I could just hear police and ambulances. There were helicopters at the time. I was just so confused what was happening. There were people running away. It was just this utter state of confusion.
The Israeli military and emergency services said that the weapon that struck Tel Aviv was a long-range Iranian-made drone. Israel's chief spokesperson, Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, said that the drone was an upgraded Iranian-made Samad 3 model.
After an initial investigation that we carried out, and from the findings of the scene and on the military systems, it appears that it's an unmanned aircraft of the Samad 3 model. Our estimation is that it arrived from Yemen to Tel Aviv. Samad 3 is an Iranian weapon that's apparently undergone an upgrade to extend the range of the flight. Iran supports, funds and arms proxies in the region, from Gaza, Judea and Samaria, Lebanon, Syria to Yemen, as happened tonight.
In fact, the IDF also shared a map of the impact site on X, formerly Twitter, saying that the attack took place in an area where Israelis go to work, where tourists typically go to the beach or shop. Following the attack, by the way, the Defense Minister Yoav Gallant met with the military commanders to review the air defense. He emphasized that the country must be prepared for all scenarios. He said, and I'm quoting, "We must be prepared for defensive and offensive actions," quote unquote. The Israeli military has also increased air patrols in order to protect Israeli airspace, but new civil defense measures have not been ordered. The mayor of Tel Aviv, Israel's economic center, has also been moved to a state of heightened alert. In the hours following Friday's attack, sirens sounded repeatedly in areas close to the border with Lebanon. The Israeli air defenses also intercepted at least one aerial target that crossed into Israel. Israel's Iron Dome air defense system has largely protected Tel Aviv and other Israeli cities from thousands of rockets fired by Hamas out of Gaza and by Hezbollah from Lebanon. So then, how exactly did this attack by the Houthis catch the Israeli forces off guard? How is it that the drone attack was not intercepted by the Israeli air defense systems? Have the Houthis developed a new weapon, one that can bypass Israeli air defenses? It looks like they could have. You see, during a televised speech following the attack, Houthi spokesperson Yahya Saree referred to Tel Aviv as a primary target within the range of their new drone. Yes, new drone. The Houthi spokesperson mentioned that their new drone, named Yafa, was capable of bypassing Israeli interception systems and could not be easily detected by radars. And if what he is saying is true, then Israel has much to worry about. The attack also came hours after the Israeli military confirmed it had killed a senior commander of the Iran-backed Hezbollah militia in southern Lebanon. The Houthis claimed responsibility for the attack in a statement published on social media. They stated that the strike was in retaliation for the Gaza war. The Houthi strike occurred shortly after Israel's military confirmed that one of its airstrikes had killed a Hezbollah commander and other militants in southern Lebanon. Israel has not yet taken direct military action against the Houthis, instead allowing its allies to lead as it focuses its efforts on the war in Gaza and the ongoing fighting with Lebanon's Hezbollah group. You see, since the war in Gaza started in October last year, the Houthis have kept the focus of their fight to the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. They maintain that their attacks target ships linked to Israel and allies like the US and the UK. But Friday's drone strike on Tel Aviv resurfaces fears about the war in Gaza between Israel and Hamas expanding to a region-wide conflagration. International mediators have tried and continue to push for a ceasefire. In fact, a three-phase deal is under discussion. It would halt fighting and free around 120 hostages held by Hamas in Gaza. But Israel is divided over striking a deal with Hamas. While some want the government to take the necessary steps to free the hostages, others disagree. They, much like the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, are adamant. And you see, the war can end only with the elimination of Hamas, is what they say. Such contradictions are delaying the truce in Gaza and in the process keeping the tensions hot and burning between Israel and Iran-backed groups siding with Hamas. In fact, a three-phase deal is under discussion. It would halt fighting and free around 120 hostages held by Hamas. But like we've been saying, Israel is divided over striking a deal with Hamas. While some want the government to take the necessary steps to free the hostages, others disagree. It's already gone on long enough for the Houthis to have developed their own weapons that can outsmart Israeli radars, maybe, and air defense systems. Israel possesses a multi-layered aerial defense system, remember, capable of intercepting threats ranging from long-range ballistic missiles to drones and short-range missiles. These systems have intercepted thousands of projectiles throughout the war. But officials warn they are only not 100% effective. The systems appear to have struggled against small and hard-to-detect attack drones. The Houthis seemed to have learned how to exploit Israel's vulnerability, and it's only a matter of time before others do. Can Israel afford a full-blown war across 5 fronts is the question. Can Netanyahu find a way to end the war before it gets too late? We will have to wait and watch. Moving on to Bangladesh now. The ongoing clashes between the students and the security forces over a quota bill have left at least 50 people dead and hundreds injured. The country's main state TV station has been set on fire. The internet has been temporarily suspended. In fact, the telecommunications blackout has cut off Bangladesh from the rest of the world. As such, the entire country is engulfed in chaos, to say the least. Information is trickling in slowly. Let's just take a step back and tell you what this unrest is all about. It basically stems from deep-seated anger over a quota system that reserves 56% of the government jobs for certain groups, including 30% for the descendants of the 1971 freedom fighters. People are demanding a complete overhaul of the system, outrightly rejecting Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, whom they now label a dictator for her government's brutal crackdown on the protesters, as many are calling it. Earlier this week, Hasina had shut all universities and colleges, the epicenters of the protest, indefinitely. On Wednesday, Hasina gave a speech denouncing the deaths of students killed in the protests and urged the protesters to wait until the High Court's final order. However, it has done little to quell the situation. As per reports, the sound of tear gas, gunfire, flash grenades echoed in areas close to the universities in the country's capital, Dhaka, on Friday. Many government buildings, including the Bangladesh Bridge Authority's main headquarters, were torched by angry protesters. Many streets across the national capital appeared deserted, with burnt vehicles lying on the side of the road, a common sight. Besides Dhaka, there have been reports of violence in 47 of Bangladesh's 64 districts in relation to this protest. In central Bangladesh district of Narsingdi, students protested protesters allegedly entered a jail and freed inmates before setting it on fire. The tone of the protesters also has, by the way, gradually become more anti-government, against Hasina and her party, the Awami League. Even amid the crackdown on the phone and internet connectivity, protesters found a way to hack top government websites on Friday, and several official websites in Bangladesh appeared to be hacked as per reports. Websites like the Prime Minister's office, police, central bank were among those that were reportedly hacked. Allegedly, on the Prime Minister's office website, multiple messages were left by the hackers. One message read, "Stop killing students," and another in red capital letters similar to blood. I'm quoting, "It's not a protest anymore, it's a war now," quote unquote. And later in the page, another message stated that the government has shut down the internet to silence us and hide their actions, quote unquote. The international community is also monitoring the developments very closely. The UN chief Antonio Guterres has urged restraint from all sides. India's Ministry of External Affairs, meanwhile, urged all Indians staying in Bangladesh to avoid travel and stay indoors on Friday. And just to understand the issue better, we need to look at the entire background. Sheikh Hasina has been Bangladesh's prime minister for over 28 years. Her tenure is marked by allegations of high-level corruption and turning Bangladesh into what many call a party state. Her opponents claim she has centralized power to the point of authoritarianism. The police's response to students protesting the quota system only fuels the growing anti-incumbency sentiment against her. Students are openly declaring they would prefer Razakars over what they see as her dictatorship. This term refers to the East Pakistani volunteers who sided with Pakistan during the 1971 War of Independence, committing horrific acts against Bangladeshis. And being called that term is the worst insult in Bangladeshi society. But now, students chant, "We are Razakars," as a taunt against Sheikh Hasina, reflecting the depths of their anger and frustration. The protest's roots lie in a broader social and economic context. In the year 2018, after violent nationwide protests, the government scrapped the quotas for first and second-class jobs. However, on June 5th this year, the Bangladesh High Court ruled that the 2018 circular was illegal, effectively reinstating the quotas. And this court decision triggered the current wave of protests, which further intensified when the Prime Minister, in a press conference, questioned if the grandchildren of Razakars should get quota benefits. This statement provoked fierce backlash, leading to the now ubiquitous chant, "Who are you? Who am I? We are Razakars. Who is branding us? The dictator," quote unquote. Now, it's important to remember that Sheikh Hasina's father, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the then Prime Minister of Bangladesh, was the first person to introduce the 30% quota for the descendants of freedom fighters in 1972. Rahman was from the same party as Hasina, the Awami League. As per political experts, a large number of protesters look at the 30% quota for the descendants of 1971 freedom fighters as one that will directly benefit the descendants of Awami League leaders, many of whom had fought in the war, further agitating the protesters. Meanwhile, following the government's appeal, the Bangladesh Supreme Court has suspended the High Court's reinstatement of quotas and set a date for August 7 to hear the government's challenge to the High Court ruling. While Hasina and her government agree with the students on removing the quota, protesters are demanding legal amendment against the quota altogether, citing lack of trust in the government. And with the country standing at this crucial juncture, the quota protests, marked by widespread violence and public outrage, signal growing resistance against Hasina's rule. And to delve deeper into what's going on in Bangladesh right now, with me on the broadcast is former High Commissioner to Bangladesh, Veena Sikri. Thanks very much for being here on the broadcast. I have to begin by asking you for your assessment of what's really playing out in Bangladesh at this point. The unrest, of course, becoming a growing cause of concern.
First of all, as you yourself pointed out in your excellent introduction, the country, Bangladesh, has been without quotas for 6 years. So now to go back and blame Sheikh Hasina for something that she herself removed in 2018 when the students had protested, I think that does not really quite gel with the situation. So it seems more and more likely as we are moving ahead that the use of the term Razakars in the press conference by Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has been misused by the protesters or those who are now egging them on to define themselves as Razakars. It is absolutely unbelievable to see that students of universities like Dhaka University and others. Dhaka University students were at the core of the liberation war in 1971. The students of Dhaka University were the ones who were the first to go ahead and become Mukti Juddhas and take up arms and be trained and to go and fight the Pakistani genocide. And to think that their descendants are now going to say that we are Razakars, it is really something quite unbelievable. It looks much more as though they are being instigated to be so. And I must draw attention to another point that when the High Court judgment came, as you have yourself said, on the 5th of June, the protests by the students started at that time. Those protests were against the High Court decision, not against Sheikh Hasina. They were worried that the High Court decision would then mean that the reservations would come back and Sheikh Hasina's decision taken in 2018 would be overturned. So their protests were against the High Court. And then as it went on, the government took action against that. But Sheikh Hasina kept telling the students that please wait till the Supreme Court decision on August 7th. And I can assure you that the decision will be something that will please everybody. So she has obviously been working, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has been working behind the scenes to make sure that when the Supreme Court gives its verdict on August 7th, it will, the students will be happy and the government will be happy and it will be a consensus decision. But after the Razakar's remark at the press conference, that remark, by the way, was not to call the students Razakars. The students were actually being told that, look, I will, if any concessions had to be given, it will be given to the children of freedom fighters, but not to the Razakars who were against the freedom. So I think the misuse of this quotation, the instigation of widespread riots, most of the killing of students have taken place after that press conference. In fact, about 20 or more students died in the last 2-3 days. And as you know, that last night,
since you yourself
yes,
pointed out that using this term is of serious concern, and like we also pointed out, it is the greatest insult in Bangladeshi society. So the fact that people who are on the streets or who are angry with the way things have panned down are calling themselves that term, are using that term for themselves, isn't that an indicator of the kind of massive levels of frustration and anger on the ground? Does that not also tell us about how the government has not lent a patient ear or has not done enough to kind of quell that anger on the ground? Would you agree with that? Or would you say that the government has done absolutely enough at this point? And with the way things are going, the situation is spiraling out of control, but it's not the government's fault. Would you say that?
No, I'm not saying. In a situation like this, everybody has to work much, much harder. There is no doubt that there has to be complete dialogue and a rebuilding of trust between the government and the students. There is absolutely no doubt about that. And I think that Prime Minister Hasina has announced the dialogue. 2 of our ministers have been nominated, and the dialogue doesn't seem to have started. But we hope that it will start, and before August the 7th, there will be some solution. What I'm trying to say is that the instigation that has come in, and that is where you have the situation of the escalation of violence, because it is being estimated.
Who are you pointing towards when you say instigation?
Yes,
by whom?
Yes, I was just coming to that. That the instigation seems to have been by the political participation. Immediately after that press conference, the violence escalated hugely. The estimation was that Representative Shibir is the students' wing of the Jamaat-e-Islami, had probably entered the protest and were trying to take control of it. As a result of that, the students' wing of the Awami League, the Bangladesh Chhatr League, also entered the protest and were clashing with each other. A lot of the killings have taken place because of that. And of course, the police also were there. But so I'm trying to say that please let us not at this point either wholly condemn Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina or wholly say that the students are entirely right and Sheikh Hasina. So it is a situation which has come up. Whether there's been instigation, we do know that the BNP were regretting immensely that they did not participate in the elections earlier this year. And as a result, they're completely cut off from the political centers.
As you're saying, it is a situation of growing concern, absolutely. And we will continue to get an assessment and continue to monitor the latest coming in from on the ground. At this point, of course, unfortunately, very limited information is coming in because of the kind of connectivity restrictions and the blackout that the country is going through. At the moment, we're leaving it there for the moment, completely out of time. Thanks very much for being here on the broadcast with us, Ambassador. Thank you. Now, it's 9 p.m. IST, and we're coming to you with breaking news coming in from The Hague, where the International Court of Justice has delivered its opinion on occupied Palestinian territories. The World Court has declared that the Israeli settlements in occupied Palestinian territory are illegal under international law. The ICJ finding Israel must make reparation for damages caused by West Bank occupation through the top UN Court's advisory opinion is non-binding. A ruling against Israel would probably lead to greater international sanctions against the settlement movement.
The World Court has ruled that Israeli settlement policy in the territories violates international law, and the ruling will be a blow to the legitimacy of Israel's presence in the West Bank. Israel, of course, refers to these territories by the historic names of Judea and Samaria and believes it has a historic and legal right as well as a security need to be present in the territory. Now, in response to the ruling, the ultra-nationalists have called for annexation. This comes after Israel's parliament voted against the establishment of a Palestinian state, suggesting that it would be taken over by jihadists who, in cooperation with Iran, would attempt to eliminate the Jewish state. Now, Prime Minister Netanyahu often talks about his belief that the Palestinians should have, quote, all the power to govern themselves with none of the power to harm Israel. And this is likely to be on the agenda when he visits the United States next week.
Shifting focus for now to a story that you probably have come across throughout the day or have possibly been affected by it personally. The Microsoft outage has brought a lot of sectors to a halt throughout the day. There has been growing concern. This has been ongoing for over 17 hours now. The company has issued a statement saying that the underlying cause for the global outage has been fixed. However, the residual impact of cybersecurity outage is continuing to affect industries and users around the world. Now, here are some key services that have been affected due to the Microsoft error. The emergency helpline number 911 is said to be still down in several US states. The outage has caused few airlines across India, Hong Kong, Singapore, Italy, Canada, and the US to ground flights earlier. In Australia, people have been reportedly facing payment system failure. They were having difficulties in accessing financial institutions like Australia's stock exchange. The outage also impacted the London Stock Exchange. The 2024 Paris Olympics also being hit by the outage. However, the impact remains limited with no ticket sales affected. Among the worst hit are Australia and New Zealand. According to reports, the outage started around 3:30 a.m. Indian Standard Time on the 19th of July. Not just businesses, Microsoft users are also unable to access various apps and services. Meanwhile, several flights have either been cancelled or delayed due to the outage.
I arrived at the airport since 2 p.m. and saw this long queue. The staff informed us that the system was down and there was nothing they could do. We just had to stand and wait like this.
Our flight's been cancelled, so now we're trying to find accommodation in Sydney, which is not easy. Our daughters are trying to do that online, and then we'll have to try and get a flight home somehow, somewhere, sometime, don't know.
Indian airlines, including Indigo and SpiceJet, faced issues with their check-in systems. They were forced to use alternate methods like Excel to check in and manage booking services. Moreover, the web check-in feature is temporarily unavailable for passengers across India. Millions of Windows users across the world experiencing what is called the blue screen of death. The outage is causing computers to shut down or restart automatically, and in some cases, repeatedly. Blue screen errors can occur when a critical issue forces Windows to unexpectedly shut down or restart. And so the question remains, what caused the outage and why did it happen? Are you aware of a company called CrowdStrike? Well, CrowdStrike is a US-based cybersecurity company. It provides security solutions to users and businesses around the world. In Microsoft's case, the CrowdStrike software is integrated with Windows operating system to provide advanced security. The firm uses cloud-based AI and machine learning to detect and prevent threats in real time. However, the company that was meant to prevent such outages is the one that caused it this time around. According to an alert sent by CrowdStrike, its widely used Falcon sensor software is causing Microsoft Windows to crash.
This specific outage has been caused by a software platform called CrowdStrike, which is an agent for the protection of computers against intrusions, malware. So what we usually call antivirus, just the version of an antivirus that is installed in large enterprises. Since this software is used across different industries globally, it's one of the leading platforms on the market. The outages that we are seeing are spread both geographically and across different industries.
Microsoft also has acknowledged the issue. They have released a statement, and I'm quoting, "We are investigating an issue impacting users' ability to access various Microsoft 365 apps and services." CrowdStrike, on the other hand, says the issue has been isolated and a fix has been deployed. However, the outage continues to affect different industries around the world. It still remains unknown when the operations will be fully restored. Will Joe Biden exit the presidential race? Will he bow out or not? That has been the big question out there ever since Biden's debate performance triggered serious concern about his re-election bid. Well, as it turns out, Biden dropping out of the race could be no longer a question of if, but when, given how things have panned out for him. Look at the tremendous pressure he is under, with growing calls for him to drop his re-election bid. Barack Obama, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, just some of the names on a long list of those asking him to bow out. In fact, Biden has tried his best to inspire confidence, but clearly those attempts have not succeeded. Amid mounting pressure and speculation, the latest poll numbers also do not help his case. As per this week's Economist or YouGov poll, by an ever-increasing margin, Donald Trump is viewed by more Americans than Biden as the likely winner. This stands at 49% versus 26% this week. Just for perspective, there was a 19-point margin in last week's poll, and that stood at 9 points 2 weeks before. So it's an ever-growing margin and ever-growing concern. So basically, things are looking increasingly tricky for Joe Biden as per this poll. And there is more, by the way. 51% of Americans think Joe Biden definitely or probably should step aside in the 2024 election and allow another Democrat to run. Only 30% say he definitely or probably should not. Meanwhile, 88% of the Americans who want Biden to step aside cite concerns about his age, health, or cognitive function. 88%. The question also is, if Biden does step down, if he does leave the race, who will replace him? Let me tell you that there has been a lot of speculation over that. And this poll also revealing among Democrats, Biden leads Trump by 87 points, while Kamala Harris leads by 81 points. Remember earlier, Biden had said that he will bow out of the race if the doctors ask him to, that he will drop his re-election bid if he is diagnosed with a medical condition, which also triggered further speculation. Some have even said that this makes the doctors the most important decision makers for which way things will go from here. In other developments, a crucial meeting was also postponed. The Democrats had earlier planned to hold a virtual roll call to push for Biden's nomination ahead of the Democrat National Convention in August. But there has been a change of plans, which again raises speculation over what this means for Biden's re-election bid. The party released a letter postponing the virtual vote. It will now be held after the 1st of August. What was the reason behind this? What's brewing within the camp? Meanwhile, there is a glimmer of hope for Joe Biden. Biden's campaign chair, Jen O'Malley-Dillon, has put out a clear statement backing the president's place in the presidential race. Dillon acknowledged a quote-unquote slippage in support for the president, but insisted that Biden is absolutely remaining in the case. So what happens next? Will Biden bow out or stay? And is it a question of when he will drop out and not if? We will find out very soon. Let's now dive into a story that could hold immense geopolitical significance. Cyprus has unveiled its plans for a major new naval base, and this move is more than just a regional development. It has the potential to reshape the balance of power in the Mediterranean and beyond. Let's just break this down for you. Cyprus, strategically positioned at the crossroads of Europe, Asia, and Africa, has announced its intentions to build a state-of-the-art naval base on its southern coast, a calculated bid to expand its geopolitical influence and national defense. So why does this matter? For centuries, islands like Cyprus and Malta have been linchpins in controlling Mediterranean shipping routes. In fact, in the old days, whoever held these islands could project power across the region with gunboats and artillery. Today, the stakes are just as high. Control over these waterways means a significant influence over global trade and military movements. Cyprus is uniquely positioned next to Syria, a country that hosts a significant Russian naval base. The US also has presence in the region. Though their bases in Syria have faced numerous challenges, a new Cypriot naval base offers an alternative, a stable, secure location for Western powers to project their influence without the constant threat of attack that exists in Syria. But there's more. Cyprus has been a hub for humanitarian aid, particularly in recent months, and it has played a critical role in delivering aid to Gaza, using the port of Larnaca as a staging ground. This new base would bolster these efforts, providing a secure, efficient platform for humanitarian missions throughout tumultuous parts of West Asia. Cypriot Defense Minister Vasilis Palmas has reportedly emphasized the island's elevated geopolitical role as the European Union's closest member to West Asia. Remember, Cyprus is a member of the EU since 2004. Palmas highlighted that this new base would support policies geared towards regional stability and humanitarian efforts. He said that building the base will contribute decisively to policy implementation in the region. Palmas further highlighted that Greece is lending its technical expertise to ensure that the base meets modern standards and can serve its intended strategic purposes. This cooperation basically underscores the broader regional implications of the base, reinforcing alliances and projecting a united front in the Mediterranean. The base is planned to be built near Limassol, a site that experienced a devastating explosion in the year 2011. That incident, involving 480 tons of seized Iranian gunpowder, killed 13 people and caused a political crisis. Now, one thing is clear, that Cyprus's new naval base represents a significant geopolitical maneuver and positions itself as a key player in the Mediterranean, with implications that will be felt far beyond its shores. Shanghai, China's financial hub, wants to cash in on what is now being dubbed the SWIFT effect. Yes, we are talking about Taylor Swift, who is being likened to a walking GDP by government advisors in Shanghai. Walking GDP. In fact, the pop sensation is triggering calls for policy changes as far as foreign stars in China are concerned. Now, in recent years, Shanghai has hosted numerous large-scale commercial performances. However, its leadership believes it's missing the mark on attracting internationally influential stars, especially those appealing to the younger demographic. Advisors to the Shanghai government have openly called for a relaxation of the restrictions on international performers, arguing that superstars like Taylor Swift can bring significant economic benefits. Taylor Swift's record-breaking Eras Tour has become a shining example of the economic potential that top-tier performers can bring. This tour, which has generated over $5 billion in consumer spending so far, is being hailed as the largest and highest-grossing personal concert tour in history. In fact, in an article on the official WeChat account of the Shanghai municipal government advisors Lian, Gu Hongui, and Zhang Wenyi emphasized that attracting high-quality international performances would not only boost the local tourism, but also appeal to both domestic as well as international audiences. They pointed out that Shanghai could learn from the performance models of Singapore and Japan that have successfully hosted numerous international acts. But here's the challenge. Hosting international performances in China is fraught with regulatory hurdles. The Chinese government has traditionally been wary of granting permissions for large-scale events, particularly those involving foreign artists, due to concerns over cultural influence and security. And this cautious approach has stifled the potential for bringing in top-tier talent. To address these issues, the advisors propose several measures like streamlining the approval processes, visas, customs, and other logistical challenges. And they also suggested increasing the venue capacity and offering more flexible ticket pricing in order to accommodate a larger audience. The call for change coming amid a new trend in China, traveling for a show. Fans, especially young people, are increasingly willing to travel to other cities for big concerts, driving local tourism as well as consumer spending. And by relaxing restrictions, Shanghai could bolster its cultural appeal and economic vibrancy. And as we watch these developments unfold, it will be rather interesting to see how they navigate the balance between cultural openness and regulatory control. Our next story is about defying odds, making a mark despite several hurdles along the way. It is a story of inspiration that has left us absolutely amazed. Who am I talking about? 4 Iran-born female athletes are in the news. They have defected and will be there for the Paris Olympics that will start later this month. You heard that right. The Paris Olympics that will begin later this month will witness the participation of these 4 athletes. Who are they? Their names are Kimia Alizadeh, Saman Sultani, Yekta Jamali Gale, and Dorsa Yavarifafa. Kimia Alizadeh, by the way, is Iran's first and only female Olympic medalist. She announced her defection in January 2020, describing herself as one of the millions of oppressed women in Iran. Saman Sultani is a 27-year-old kayak paddler. She will compete in canoe sprint at the Paris Games as part of the largest refugee Olympic team to date. Yekta Jamali Gale is known for being the first Iranian female weightlifter who won medals in international tournaments. What an incredible story. And Dorsa Yavarifafa has expressed her excitement, saying that both her parents will be in Paris this summer. Their stories stand out as ones of not giving up. These are stories of immense courage and outstanding determination. If you had the power to extend your life, would you take it? What if I told you that scientists may have found a way to extend life? A miracle drug that can stop you from aging, that can boost your lifespan by 25%. Would you take such a drug? Because it looks like a team of scientists have tested such a drug on mice and have discovered that it increased their lifespans by nearly 25%. The groundbreaking discovery sparked hope that it can slow humans aging as well. They're calling the treated mice supermodel grannies in the laboratory. Supermodel grannies. Because of their youthful appearance. The treated mice appeared healthier, stronger, and developed fewer cancers than their unmedicated peers. The drug is already being tested in people, but whether it would have the same anti-aging effect is unknown. The quest for a longer life is a tale as old as time. Scientists have long known the aging process is malleable. Laboratory animals live longer if you significantly cut the amount of food that they eat. Now, the field of aging research is booming as researchers try to uncover and, in a way, manipulate the molecular processes of aging. The team at the MRC Laboratory of Medical Science, Imperial College London, and Duke NUS Medical College in Singapore are investigating a protein called interleukin-11. Researchers found that interleukin-11, which increases in the human body as we age, may play a role in driving aging. By genetically engineering mice to not produce interleukin-11 and giving a drug to purge it from older mice, the researchers were able to extend their lifespans by 20 to 25%, reduce cancer levels, and improve muscle function. This research is part of the ongoing effort to develop drugs that can potentially combat aging. The hope basically is to extend healthy aging. While further research is needed, the findings do offer hope for addressing aging-related health issues in the future. Although the results were promising, there are still unanswered questions about whether the same effects can be achieved in people. What potential side effects could arise from this is the immediate question. The drug being tested in humans is a manufactured antibody that basically attacks interleukin-11. It has shown promising results in patients with lung fibrosis. The scientists say that the trials had not been completed. However, the data suggested the drug was safe to use. And this is, of course, just one way in which scientists are researching treating aging with drugs. The type 2 diabetes drug, metformin, and rapamycin, which is taken to prevent an organ transplant being rejected, are also actively being researched for their apparent anti-aging qualities. Now, in conclusion, the discovery of a drug that significantly increases the lifespans of mice holds immense promise for potential applications in human aging. While further research is necessary to determine the drug's effectiveness and possible side effects in human beings, these findings represent a significant step forward in the quest to understand and potentially combat the aging process. With continued study and development, such advancements could pave the way for transformative therapies that extend healthy aging and improve overall well-being. On that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas Tonight. This is me, Maureen Gambhir, signing off. Thanks very much for watching.